I'd tell you the details, but it'd sound like I made them up.
Your problem is you spent your whole life thinking there are rules. There aren't.
Believing as I do, like the good Dr. King said, a man should be judged on the content of his character, not the color of his skin.
Yeah, he's dead. You're gonna need a different quote.
I just charged for parking.
You think they're going to ask questions when they come with their pitchforks and their torches?
It's just a flight. It's suspect. We gotta go.
You had a piece of pie like that since the Garden of Eden.
Simply deliver a message when the time comes.
Message? To who?
To the wicked.
We're very friendly people.
No. It's not. Pretty unfriendly, actually.
Hello there everybody and welcome to yet another episode of Very Friendly People, the Fargo Character Analysis Podcast. I am as always your humble host Thomas Potts, and I have a cookie here for anybody who can tell me who is my favourite co-host in the entire world. Yes, you sir, right there.
Is it Jack Breedon?
No, it is not Jack Breedon.
Oh, good.
I'm
he's an
joking.
arsehole. Oh, I wasn't.
No, of course it is Jack Breedon.
Hello.
Would you like the cookie?
Yes, please. No, that's my cookie. Thank you. It has my name on it. All right, Dick. Jesus Christ! What a
I just wanted to do something a bit different, you know, rather
You
than
caught
the
me by
traditional-
surprise, and that's the best improv I could come up with. Some Cockney orphan, an audience of one Cockney orphan fighting me over a cookie. Jesus Christ.
It's kind of Dickensian. I liked it.
Yeah, that kind of. What day is it? Oh, it's Cookie Day, sir. Cookie Day.
Cookie Day. The ghost of cookies crumbled.
That really takes the biscuit. Oh, that's a good jape, sir. Don't tell me
Chip off
what's a
the old
jape.
block.
Yes. Well, anyway, back to poverty you go. Oh, all right. Off I go to the abattoir. Catch you later. All right. Wonderful. So yes, how are you doing, Thomas? Hopefully you're doing better than that Cockney orphan is.
I can safely say I'm doing much better than a cookie-starved Cockney orphan, yes.
Wonderful.
Doing quite well, actually, yes. Especially since we've got a very interesting character to delve into today. One who hasn't really been delved into much before. Would you say that's safe to say?
I would, very much so. Upon doing research for this episode and just my general kind of perusing of Fargo content, just to entertain myself, it's all very sort of villain-focused or Lester-focused or just theme-focused. There's not a lot about this character, so I'm very, very excited about today.
Because today we are going to be looking at, I think it's safe to say, the hero of Season 1, that being Molly Solverson.
Runs in the family, that hero quality. And what a hero she is.
She's great, absolutely, yes. And it's nice that we've had, 2 episodes delving into quite dark materials with Lester and Lorne, and now we get to have a bit of a breath of fresh air with just a very sweet, very lovable character.
Yeah, definitely. She's got other shades to her. Nothing as malicious or horrifying as the other two. She's definitely the most determined. Well, yeah. I think Malvo and Lester are pretty determined in their schemes, but this character is definitely the embodiment of that constant, determinate exploring of the truth.
I think that's safe to say, yes. Now, obviously, it's interesting to note that the character is once again a reimagining of one of the archetypes established in the Fargo movie, and that this is very much a Marge Gunderson type character, although differs from Marge in quite a lot of significant ways. For example, the actress Alison Tolman says that perhaps the key difference between the two characters is that Marge is the chief, whereas Molly is just starting out as a deputy and is still struggling under the weight of her superiors, who often think they know best, but don't usually.
Absolutely. And what a brilliant actress Alison Tolman is. She's phenomenal in this show. And this was her first kind of on-screen credit was Fargo.
Yes, and it doesn't show, because what I love about Alison Tolman's performance as Molly is that it would be so easy to try and do a more heightened performance to match the Lester and the Lorne performances, which are a lot more intense, and I think that's why those characters tend to stick more in the memory. And what Alison's able to do with Molly is be able to make the character subtle enough so that she doesn't steal the show, but still gives the character enough weight for us as viewers, for her to earn our respect, effectively, and still be like, even though Lester and Lorne are interesting to watch, we recognise that this is the person who deserves to win.
Absolutely. She's approachable as a character. You like her instantly without her being over-the-top nice. She's certainly not kind of replacing Marge with that same energy and heightened way of speaking. The accent in particular is definitely dialed down for Molly.
I mean, even the accent that Alison Tolman uses, it's a lot more subtle. It's a lot less pronounced than Marge is done in the film.
Definitely. And even though it's a subtle performance and a subtle kind of character, it doesn't mean that she's forgettable. It doesn't mean she's kind of a pushover or uninteresting, or we don't dislike watching her kind of eagerly waiting for the next more interesting character to come along the next scene. She's kind of the perfect foil for the Lester and the Malvos and that approach, being so far different, while still being totally unique, separate from the Marge character. Marge being the chief, there was an air of responsibility, like you were saying, and how Molly is a mere deputy. And so she kind of tackles with a lot more kind of workplace casual sexism than Marge ever did. People talking down to her, discrediting her theories, and that kind of weight on the shoulders of her dad, Lou Solverson, who is one of our particular favourites. Definitely a fan favourite character for most viewers, I think. So she definitely has that responsibility of just her last name and the lineage that came before her. And you feel that throughout the show. You feel like she could easily crack. A lot of people could crack under the pressure, but she never does.
I mean, her name is Solverson, so naturally it's expected that she is going to solve the mystery.
Well, exactly. And no matter kind of the opinions of others, Bill Oswalt and Gus's chief, I can't remember his name
Schmidt.
now. Ben Schmidt, that's it, yes, because he's in season 2 as well. And they're very dismissive of her and her seemingly crackpot she's kind of viewed as the flake, if you know what I mean by the flake, that kind of Fox Mulder kind of tinfoil hat, connecting the dots, big red threads connecting pictures on a big wall in an apartment kind of thing, of being like, oh, this is all connected and this person's actually involved, and it goes all the way to the top. And of course she's right at every turn.
I feel that, I remember, because I was rewatching season 1, and I couldn't help but feel that Molly might be kind of an audience surrogate, in that she is the one who is able to kind of piece everything together. And also, I remember the scene where, after the murder of Sam Hess, and she takes a note of the way that he was killed, and then realising who he is, and she quite excitedly says, "You think this could be an organised crime thing?" And I remember thinking, as an audience member, you are kind of like, ooh, yeah, I want this to be involved in something bigger.
Yeah.
And so there is this kind of almost not quite a bloodlust, but the fact that she is a cop from a small town where nothing ever happens, and then the possibility of this being something bigger would naturally excite her. But also, B, she's Lou Solverson's daughter. He was the hero of Sioux Falls. She wants to have a shot at being able to take on the big bad guys, you know.
Yep, she too wants to, you know, battle mobsters under the light of a UFO.
Mm-hmm.
Definite kind of weight from that on her shoulders. Yeah, definite eagerness, and a kind of eventual understanding of the world. I wouldn't say naive at first. I suppose
maybe slightly more naive than she ultimately becomes, I think.
Definitely. She definitely learns a thing or two by the end of the first season. Definitely kind of learns that just because you have all the right answers doesn't mean that people are going to listen, and just because you made every correct possible move, you could still fail. Ultimately, that seemingly your co-workers, your boss, friendly, nice, good people can just not help.
That's
you
true,
know,
yeah.
Bill Oswalt in particular, and which is kind of why I think she's definitely gets drawn in with Gus when these two characters kind of interact with each other. This guy who's finally
cute.
It really that kind of romance and love story is so. There's a danger there that it could be so melodramatic, you know, frolicking on the fields, very, you know, wavy hair in the wind.
And it's
or it
so
could be,
quiet.
It's so quiet, so subtle.
It's just little details that just started this kind of budding romance.
Yeah, it's natural. I mean, it's just a testament to the writing and the acting from Alison and from Colin Hanks.
Yes.
That it just feels so normal. They feel like two totally normal and real human beings. Slowly falling in love.
Again, it's that Lynchian philosophy of, you know, using the darkness and the evils in order to highlight the absolute beauty and simplicity of the mundane.
Absolutely, and nothing shows the weird duality of this show. I'm kind of jumping straight to the end. I was going to mention the last scene of season 1. I don't know if you want to get into that now or to perhaps discuss things that happened before, but
I mean, we're not constrained by
very true
by the framework of time.
Very true. No man could hold me, not even you, Father Time. I'm going to talk about the end if I damn want to. But the ending is definitely, if you're a fan of the film, you're going to see the parallel to the ending of the film.
Yes.
I remember I've been doing some of the reading once again in my big book of Fargo. I bring out every episode. Interview of Noah Hawley and Alison kind of discussing the end. And that kind of anxiety of going, well, everyone remembers the end of Fargo. It was such a weirdly simplistic and very normal scene of just this couple watching the TV. And then that's just how it ends. And everyone loves it. And that kind of responsibility for this character and for this show and this season to be like, God, how the hell do we end it? And they do it in a pretty similar way. She hears about the death of Lester over the phone, and there's no kind of discussion. There's no kind of scene of her weeping at the phone or, you know, smiling to the sky or jumping for joy. She just puts it down and gets back to her family.
Yes, I remember the first time I ever saw that, and I was disappointed in the ending the first time I saw it.
Interesting, because I've done some research on this, and a lot of people have said I've had mixed feelings. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I usually find that with Fargo, to be honest. The first time I watch it, I always think when I come to the ending, I was like, what? And then I'll rewatch it and I'll be like, I get it now. But for me, you know, Molly makes Lester her white whale in many ways. He's
Absolutely.
the key. He you know, she hounds him, you know, and I've heard some people say, like, quite unfairly, even though, you know, he's guilty as sin, you know.
Absolutely. Even characters in the show will say that you've gone too far. You know, Lester's a poor victim of this crime here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But also all the way through, because you are on her side, you're hoping, you want to see her finally get Lester. And then for him at the end to just, you know, be chased by just random police officers and then, crumble to his death into the pond. And so there's something so powerful about her picking up the phone. And like you say, she's not angry that she didn't get him. She doesn't cry. She just puts the phone down and she lets it go. And that, absolutely, I think, speaks volumes about how much the character grows throughout the show.
Absolutely. And it's the difference between the battle of good and evil in that show. The fact that she can get so involved and let go and then have a happy, normal life, because that's the healthy thing to do. Comparatively to Lester, he absolutely won't let things go. He's let things build up inside of him. A lot of resentment and anger and disappointment. And then he's built this new amazing life for himself, and he absolutely is clinging on for dear life at every possible moment. So as he desperately tries to cling on for life and falls, beneath the ice, she just happily lets go and slouches back on the couch.
It's like she's finally heeding her father's words. Like,
indeed,
he's been the hero cop, and he's telling her, this life is better, darling. And so all the way through again, she's like, oh no, I'm gonna chase all the mobsters. I'm gonna get the bad guys. I'm gonna do it. But then by the end, she's just like, as long as justice is served, I don't need to be the hero, because this is what real triumph over the darkness is. It's being able to sit down with your family and watch TV together.
Exactly. So to be so involved in that, and then to meet, and then to have the disappointment of this sort of workplace sexism and people belittling you, and you knowing that you're right, you're absolutely correct in this case, and then you to find someone that believes in your cause. And you think, oh, things are going her way now. Things could be happening. Things are blossoming. And then it cuts to 1 year later. And you go, wow, she's been waiting a year for this case to actually, come to a close. It's like, oh, God damn, we don't see that year, but we could kind of pick up on the fact that, what's been replaced in her life is this blossoming romance. And she's now finally learning, okay, I now know what's important here. And then, of course, the case picks back up, and then she, gets involved again.
At the drop of a hat, yeah. She has a serial killer board all up with all the red lines connecting everything.
Absolutely. Very Fox Mulder, very tinfoil hat. But she's right. She's absolutely adamant. She's got the evidence. And, what's not to love about someone... It's a weird... I was thinking about this, about what her archetype is, that type of character. Because with Lester, his kind of journey throughout the show is one of change, certainly. He goes from point A to point B. It's a big curve. You could describe it in many ways. It could be a curve downwards, it could be a curve upwards, it could be a peaks and valleys kind of thing. Totally up to interpretation, but he definitely changes over the course of the whole show dramatically and drastically. But with Molly, she grows in a way, but it's not one of those things where at the start she's a horrible person. She's damaged. She has to learn a lesson for herself. At the start, she's right. And it's that kind of almost, I don't know why I'm thinking of like this kind of Captain America kind of heroism of believing in goodness and always sticking to the truth and the pursuit of knowledge and the truth and justice, without ever having to, compromise on your morality or whatever. And her journey is kind of the world around her changing. Well, she does herself, of course, as you've mentioned previously. It's just a weird parallel journey that she has with Lester, that she herself doesn't change, but the world around her has to change because she has been right this whole time.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've listened to people talk about in the original film how Marge is technically the antagonist of the movie, that the plot is actually being driven by William H. Macy, and Marge is practically the Terminator in that she is just constantly in pursuit of the truth and will eventually get there. Whereas with Molly, while that's still kind of true, in that Lester and Lorne are the drivers of the plot, she has her own internal story going on at the same time in a way that I don't think Marge really did. Molly, I think, does grow a lot more than Marge does in the film. And as a TV show, that's to be expected because you spend more time with these characters, you get a lot more to learn about them as people rather than just, instruments of a plot. So you get these little moments, kind of like the do you remember the meeting that Molly has with her friend in the restaurant?
Yes.
It's kind of a parallel to the Mike Yanagita scene in the movie.
Absolutely, yeah.
This is a scene that I have thought about endlessly because it just seems so bizarre. And the Mike Yanagita film, like Noah Hawley has said in interviews that it's almost a nonsensical and doesn't serve any purpose to the story. But I think in the original film, that scene definitely does have a purpose because that is the scene that kind of ultimately leads Marge to believe, that she's been lied to and that she's able to have dinner with this friend who just spouts absolute lies to her. And when that's revealed to her, that's what leads her to go back to question Jerry again. Whereas in the TV show, I feel that it is slightly more nonsensical. And I was wondering if you had any insight as to what it might mean.
Yeah. Oh God, I'm trying to think of the scene desperately now. To jog my memory on any thoughts of that scene.
I think the closest that we get is that because they're talking about a love life, their love lives. Because I think this is before Molly meets Gus, and her friend has been talking about she's had quite a few flings with these guys, and she mentions about one of her boyfriends has like a strange growth in his neck. And then it turns out that some spiders had laid some eggs there, and these baby spiders pop out.
God, yes! Oh,
yes.
God, yeah! God, that scene was hilarious. Yeah,
it's so well played. Yeah, she's so funny.
Yeah, as a one scene kind of... Yeah, she's great.
Mm-hmm. But then later on, I know that Molly talks about that conversation again, and she's like, I don't think I want to live in a world where that can happen to a person.
Yeah, I think that scene, much like the scene from the film Fargo, in which kind of Marge essentially learns about lying, and learns that, wow, people in this quiet, snowy town could just lie to my face. Even people I've known years ago and trusted, and seemingly has no reason to lie. And then, of course, she goes back to Jerry. And I think with Molly, that one scene kind of illustrates her trajectory of kind of going, wow, this town is so boring, and my dad's a hero, and I'm just a deputy here. I'm desperate for more responsibility. Wow, I finally got the case. Like you were saying earlier about her excitement, the potential of it being linked to the Fargo crime syndicate. Mm-hmm. She's kind of learning at that point, wow, things can just happen out of nowhere. The world isn't a black and white place, and perhaps justice might not arrive. Perhaps things will get in the way. Perhaps I could, have an accident and Lester just gets away scot-free for the rest of days. And that kind of fear, I think, grows within her, and that frustration, definitely. She's having a worldview shaken, certainly. But it's a testament to her character, a real strength to her. That doesn't stop her, that doesn't put her off the case. Mm-hmm. Even, if she definitely has some peaks and valleys. She definitely goes to some low places of frustration.
My goodness, the boy that she likes, who becomes who's the only person who she trusts, ends up shooting her.
I know,
accidentally, obviously, but still,
I know. Absolutely every turn, everything is telling her, no, danger is ahead. You need to stop. And what does she do? The cops tell her she's off the case. She questions Lester. Her friend tells her about the spider eggs. She continues with the case. Mm-hmm. Her love interest shoots her. So what does she do? She marries him.
Yes, exactly.
She knows what she wants. It's the world
Talk
around
about a shotgun wedding, am I right?
Hey, exactly. The world around her is kind of working against her, and she pulls through. She perseveres, which is great.
She's her father's daughter.
Exactly. And kind of speaking on that, Noah and Alison were talking in the book that the ending wanted to be so mundane, and there was talks about, season 2 we could get the adventures of Gus and Molly again, and Noah was kind of like, no, that's kind of goes against the whole thesis of the show. You know, this is the one weird case that happens in a person's life. If it happened, you know, once every year, you wouldn't believe it. It would just be so outlandish. Lou, you know, has the Sioux Fall massacre and the UFO. That's his one case, and he's never forgotten it. You know, he briefly discusses it with Malvo, you know, in season 1, without divulging too much. And this is her case. She has this weird point in her life, and then afterwards, I think some people could certainly go, oh, so they go on just have a normal life. That's a bit disappointing. But that's what she wants. She's a person, a character, a woman, a police officer, a detective, a chief that knows what she wants. And she goes and flipping gets it. Hell yes.
Absolutely. Speaking as well about her being Lou's daughter, there's one parallel between them that I always find very fascinating. When I was talking in the Malvo episode about the scene where Lou almost kind of baits Malvo out by talking about Sioux Falls in order to kind of say, like, no, I recognize you for what you are. There's quite a similar scene where Lester's just been interrogated, and when he's being let go, Molly tells Lester a riddle about a man with a pair of gloves. And this riddle isn't one that's based on logic. It's one that's basically, it's a parable about empathy, and it's a parable about just little acts of kindness. And Lester doesn't understand it.
No, it's kind of a Rorschach test of a riddle.
Yes. But then later on, you see Lester is able to answer the riddle that's based on logic, the rabbit, the cabbage, and the fox. So immediately, Molly is able to say, no, I know that I'm right about you, because you don't understand emotion, Lester. You get cold logic. That is your world. That's how you see things. You see the world as a problem that needs to be solved, instead of just being able to say, how can I leave this world a little bit better than I was when I was in it?
Yeah, from his dog-eat-dog mentality, that kind of survival over everything else. Molly has a higher calling, a higher purpose, I suppose. You know, she has a loving family, one with her dad, and then she builds a new family. You know, with a stepdaughter and a husband and a baby on the way. She builds friendships, she builds a career, she builds the truth, she builds justice. She you know, is kind of the moral high point of season 1 of things that are important. And it's not grandiose either. You know, she isn't a saint entirely. She's not a beacon, a pinnacle, a monolith of morality and goodness. She's just a pretty normal human being.
Absolutely.
Which I think Alison portrays perfectly. Such a subtle, wonderful performance that could be hilarious and could be heartbreaking. And yeah, such a good character to have as the audience... God, what's the phrase that you mentioned earlier? The audience surrogate, thank you. To have someone that's just so, you know, has aspirations that are attainable and are humble especially.
Yes,
is the key word with her. Her dad especially was humble. In season 2, there's a lot of egos going around, especially in this one. And kind of high-strung paranoia with Bill Oswalt. She maintains a level head. A good choice to be chief. She would have had my vote.
Well, I mean, Vern says that from the very beginning, and we haven't actually talked about Vern yet, have we?
No, we haven't. I was waiting to discuss him. Yeah. Because he's kind of... Sorry, go on.
Well, I was going to say, like, you know, I'd almost say we could do an episode on him, but to be honest, he's not in the show long enough to really warrant an episode, I would say.
Definitely,
but,
yeah.
He's set up to be the hero from the very beginning. He is, you know, all of the Marge parallels are sort of brought up around him at the very beginning with regards to his pregnant wife. He has like the same lines of dialogue and everything. I actually love the bit the first time that we see Molly, and he's doing a lot of the work, and she's done quite a lot of it, but she's missed a few things. And when he points it out to her, she's like, "Oh, I can't believe I missed the deer in the trunk." And he's like, "Don't worry about it." And again, going back to that humility thing, she wants to do as best as she can, and she kind of beats herself up a little bit when she's not able to perform at the level that she feels that she's able to.
She's not ego-driven. That definitely. She's willing to learn and to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. Mm-hmm. Unlike Lester, who's constantly trying to cover up his mistakes.
Exactly, yes. And Vern from the very beginning is able to recognize, you know, Bill cleans out his gun with bubble bath. The chief is going to be you. And that makes it all the more painful. And again, this is something else that probably motivates this determination, is that she loses a mentor, she loses a friend at the very beginning.
Absolutely. And there's a good parallel with her being the audience surrogate. You know, you as an audience believe that he's going to be the main character and she's maybe the sidekick, or
yes.
she's also a part of his storyline. And then, much like to our surprise, seemingly a main character candidate is killed off in the first episode. And she certainly has that same reaction, in obviously a different way, because obviously for her it's real. But it's this main figure, this role model and teacher, kind of paternal figure, you know, having a cop father and kind of being under the wing of another cop. And then to lose that, she's kind of almost lost in the beginning and is having to quickly cling on to something for dear life so that she stays afloat. And she does.
One thing I've noticed, actually, is that because Vern is obviously given these strong parallels to Marge through his pregnant wife in particular, and I've just noticed Molly's dad is called Lou, who was the name of the goofy sidekick to Marge in the movie. So that's another kind of way that the movie's kind of the show is kind of showcasing that no, Molly is going to be the sidekick. And so then when the hero is, you know, effectively like a rug ripped out from underneath our feet, everything goes topsy-turvy. Again, Malvo is the alien element that invades the movie, changes the order of things, and forces the sidekick to step up.
Malvo is the boil full of spiders, and now she's covered in them and has to, you know, clean them up.
Yes, absolutely.
And we can discuss Vern and his wife, because I think there's not enough for a future episode. We never know. We might record them at some point in the future.
Never say never.
Yeah, never say never. Never say never. But we could discuss him here. Because he's got a wonderful motif with the paint cans.
Yes,
that definitely sets you up thinking he's going to have a big character arc throughout the show about, you know, his home life and his family. With him painting his new baby's room, and that heartbreaking shot of his wife opening the door for Molly to be on the driveway with the paint cans in hand. That is definitely the visual the shot, I would say, that kind of shows you what her character is about. She's picking up the pieces of a strange event in her life and is fixing it.
Yes.
She's taking the paint cans home. And I don't think, does she? She doesn't paint the room, does she? I'm trying to remember. There's another scene of her and the widow. Yeah, there's another thing of her and the widow having a conversation, isn't there?
I think she's just washing the dishes.
Yes, yeah, and they have a good little scene of her kind of saying, yeah, you know, Vern was a big fan of yours, and you know, you should be the chief, you should be in charge here, because you've got real good steady head on your shoulders and look at all these, middle-aged men bumbling around with gun-shaped cakes. And that kind of brings on a point. I'm not sure if this is appropriate for this kind of show, but doing a lot of research, and with it being a female character, a lot of the research that I've done, a lot of reviews have been a lot about the gender politics of the show and of the character. And, I'm aware of the irony of two white men coming onto a podcast and going, let's talk about the gender relations of a TV show. These women. And it's like, right, we've got no authority on the matter. We've got, we may have an opinion, but who doesn't? You know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah. That's all it is. Just a perspective. We have eyes.
Absolutely. I like to think we've quite an open mind. Obviously, we've got a good opinion on diversity, on female representation, on sexism within cinema. I'm definitely not the first person to say that certain characters in certain films who are women are not particularly very feminist. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I'm doing a lot of research on this. Molly, weirdly enough, is a mixed bag. I've heard. I read a review from 2014, so this was when the first season was showing, and they were discussing the parallels of Molly and Marge, and them kind of going. It was quite a long article, and they discussed that Marge is a pretty good for female representation. She's got she's a strong character. She doesn't always talk about men all the time. She's not a stereotype, and her journey is her own. And she has certain male characters who come into her storyline and help her out, rather than the other way around. That you'll have a fridged love interest who's been killed off before the movie starts, so the man has a quest for revenge, or And so Marge is definitely the main focus. She does all the stuff that a hero should do. Yeah. And they were kind of saying that Molly doesn't. That she doesn't get Lester in the end. She doesn't get Malvo in the end, but instead it's the seemingly, pathetic, kind of puppy-eyed Gus that gets Malvo in the end. And she ends up falling in love with a man, being pregnant and that kind of thing. And I can understand why certain people would go, yeah, that's a bit unfortunate. But I think, and again, no authority here, but I think there is a lot in the show that shows her as a character with strength. I think certain people are a little too harsh on this character, I think.
I would totally agree, yes. I would say that, almost Marge, yes, it fits the kind of role of a feminist heroic figure, but as a result doesn't have nearly as much actual character.
Definitely,
again,
yes.
Molly feels real. Molly, probably maybe more so than any other character, and certainly in season 1, she is just trying to get by, and
definitely
ultimately she's like, there is a sense of her maybe trying to be more of that kind of, dare I say, kind of tick box feminist hero of when her dad says one day you're going to get married, and she kind of shrugs it off, and she's like, oh, Dad, come on, I want to be a cop like you. I want to do what you do.
I'm 30 years old, I carry a gun.
Yes,
exactly. That's what she says, because Marge is a character, and I think Molly has character. And that's not me saying, oh, Marge is one-dimensional. Frances McDormand is fantastic. Marge is such a good protagonist. I mean, it won a damn Oscar. It's such a good role, such a good performance. But yeah, and I think Molly being the audience surrogate, perhaps her falling in love, meeting a boy in the family, but meeting the boy, he already has a daughter. And so it isn't kind of your typical, these are 20-something-year-old supermodels who, fall in love with another 20-year-old supermodel, and you're watching it going, they're acting as real people, but these guys are definite Hollywood movie stars. But with this show, you go, yeah, this is pretty real. I know people like this. It's very subtle, and there's little little hints of romance here or there that that perhaps the listeners out there will sort of feel and go, oh yeah, I remember stuff like this when I first started dating so and so. You know, you don't have the answers all right away.
And what's great is that they ultimately bond. You know, that their first interactions are all bonding over, you know, trying to find the truth. You know, it's because
Absolutely.
he goes in and says, I'm looking into the Lester Nygaard case, and that's what makes Molly turn around, because otherwise he may have been with an entirely different police officer. But it's the fact that she recognizes this guy knows what's up. This guy is following the same leads that I am. And and ultimately, you know, that very practical working relationship blossoms into something more.
Absolutely. And you know, she isn't there, she doesn't fall in love with him just because, you know, he's hot and attractive. She isn't there constantly pining for a man, you know, or for a boyfriend or whatever. It's because, like real people, they have a shared interest.
Exactly.
And they fall in love with that interest and eventually fall in love with each other. And she becomes a part of his family and he becomes a part of her family. They're kind of not very typical families either. You know, a single dad with a tomboy teenage daughter, and her on her own just with a grizzled cop dad. And the relationship of Lou and his newly found granddaughter is wonderful. So
it's
wonderful.
Amazing.
But we'll talk about that in the Lou episode.
Yes, absolutely.
So I was wondering if you had any I don't think you would, but any criticisms of Molly as a character. And I suppose I should say we didn't do this for the Leicester one, and we didn't do this for the Malva one, and I kind of
they're bad guys, so we've got a lot of criticisms. Be like,
exactly.
Well, I would rather not do that if I were them.
Exactly.
I wouldn't kill my wife, you know.
Yeah, so you can brush them over with a bigger brush and kind of go, yep, there we go. I know my opinions on that. But I kind of feel it's important in this kind of discourse today to kind of go, yeah, it's a bit strange we're discussing this with the female character. You know what I mean? We didn't go, well, Lester is it? Well, we didn't go, well, Lester's your typical man character. What's the gender politics of this? We did a little bit with him kind of wanting to man up and the toxic element of that, because that's in the text, definitely. And there is stuff with Molly and her gender in the text, her being looked down upon, and even some subtle sexism with the dad, being, like you said, being like, well, when you get married and have children and all that, it's kind of very presuming. So I was wondering if you had any... Sorry,
I would almost challenge the whole, and this might be slightly going into if we do a Bill Oswald episode, because I remember watching the show with one of my friends, and they were like, "Oh, I just can't watch another show where the female cop gets looked down upon because she's female." I would go so far as to say that's maybe part of the reason, but I wouldn't say it's the main reason why.
It's not the whole picture.
Why Bill specifically looks down on her. I think that...
Definitely.
Shall I go into this now, Jack? Shall I?
Absolutely. Please do. Yeah. Please do. It's the reason why we're recording the bloody thing.
It's true. It's very true. I would say that Bill's reason for saying, you need to leave Lester alone, it's less to do with the fact that, it's just a girl. I think it's more his philosophy is that, this is a place where people don't do this. A man doesn't go home and murder his wife. That's why he's saying it's a drifter. It's somebody from the outside of town. They must have came here and done this. And, there's the bit where, like, he ultimately, he admits he was wrong. And he says, like, I used to think I knew what the world was, but... Now, and kind of in the same way kind of similar way to Molly, I suppose, realizing
absolutely is
how, there is a lot of ugliness out there. And sometimes just because the answer, it's not the answer that you like, doesn't mean that it's not the right answer.
Yeah, they kind of go through the same arc, but Molly, I don't know about completes it, but she definitely goes through more of the motions in the first episode than he does. He kind of only gets to that point right at the end of that. Wow, the world actually isn't how I once thought, and it is a much scarier place. And yeah, you're right. It's definitely not a kind of, you're just a dumb girl. What do you know about policing? She's fairly well liked at the start by a lot of police officers.
Yeah.
And it's definitely more through paranoia that Bill dismisses her. He definitely believes that good is good and bad is bad. I've known Lester as a kid. He's one of the good ones.
Exactly what he says, Lester, he fainted when he had to dissect a frog. He couldn't bash someone's brains in.
Exactly, and her having the influence of her dad and her mum. I can't believe I haven't even talked about Betsy.
Oh, Betsy Solverson. Oh, my goodness.
Having such a strong role model for such a short amount of time, losing a mother at a pretty young age. I think in season 2, it's revealed that she perhaps graduates college, I think, and that's close to the time that she passes away. She's either just becoming an adult, which is pretty damn young for something like that to happen. And her dad, of course, having probably the greatest war story of them all. Well, having literal war stories, but also having this weird crime syndicate alien war story. Yes. So she's been exposed to certain things without physically being exposed and seeing it firsthand. So she's certainly more prepared than Bill is. So yeah, you're right. It's definitely not a one-stroke, she has to overcome sexism in the thing. It's definitely a smorgasbord, a broad palette of reasons that kind of her arc begins with.
For anybody angry at the fact that we haven't mentioned Betsy Solverson is probably my favourite character in season 2, so I want to save everything for that episode because I love Betsy so much.
Oh God, so good, and I can't believe I'm watching season 2. That when I watched season 1, I paid kind of no thought to I wonder what her mother was like.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get to season 2 and you go, wow, she's like the best character in this season. Unbelievably good.
Would you say that season 2, in much the same way that season 4 is, spoilers for season 4, kind of Mike Milligan's origin story, would you say that season 2 is sort of Molly's origin story?
Absolutely would. I absolutely would say so. Especially with kind of Betsy's weird visions and premonitions of the future. We even see Gus, and Molly's new family around the table, for a brief scene where she glimpses into the future. And talking on season 2 and 3, I think a lot of people or the people I looked at through my research who kind of felt Molly perhaps isn't the strongest female character or female characters within fiction. They kind of looked at other female characters within season 1, and they're certainly more passive, or if they're more passive, they're kind of definitely relegated to, they're an interesting character, but their purpose within the story is the side kick or side character that influences the male storyline. Lester's wife, Linda, Sam, Mrs. Hess.
Yes.
They kind of all are a part of Lester's story. But I think you get to season 2 and season 3, and you definitely get some of the greatest female characters. Definitely my favorite female protagonists, with Gloria and Peggy,
Nikki.
Such different characters as well. So they're not with this show. They're definitely not going, let's make her strong by making her like a man, where she kicks ass and has a gun and kind of takes no shit. They're not going that kind of forced approach. Mm-hmm. Peggy and Molly and Gloria are all so different and have so many different arcs. Which just goes to show that, in my humble opinion, and looking at the writing and what there is on the page and interviews, I think she's just such a strong character regardless of gender, but her gender does play into her character, which I think is good from an audience perspective.
I totally agree, yes. So we've talked a lot about Molly's gender. What about Molly's species?
Mm.
That's right, Jack. You thinking what I'm thinking?
I think it's that time again, my friend.
I think it's time once again for No Saints in the Animal Kingdom. This is the part of the show where we rank the character we've been talking about on the animal food chain and try and associate them with a kind of animal, like a spirit animal almost, I suppose you'd say.
Yeah, spirit animal, definitely. I was doing a bit of research. I'm going to be saying that. I feel like I've said that 1,000 times this episode. I've done the analysis.
Stop showing off all the homework you've been doing, Jack.
That's right. I read an article. I'm a new age man. Pushes up glasses. But I was doing a little bit of research and watching the Koi Dragon video by Leadhead that we discussed, I think, last episode.
Yes.
She had done a Fargo episode a number of years ago. And she touched upon how a lot of the characters have spirit animals, and literally said, yeah, I went out in her research. God, I didn't even talk about other people's research. Bloody hell. And she was saying, I looked at spiritanimal.com to see what the representation is of people in the show. I think spirit animal's the perfect way to describe what we're doing in this segment. Yeah. Okay. And in that video, she said with the Solversons, there's a lot of bird imagery.
Yes.
In set dressing, within the Lou's Cafe, you'd call that cafe, restaurant?
Yeah, Lou's Cafe, I'd say.
There's a lot of ducks on the wall, and there's a lot of pheasants behind Molly in a lot of shots, and that kind of animal represents, kind of patience. Certainly comparatively to, being a sheep or being a wolf, they're drastically different animals. And kind of I'm kind of jumping into my
go ahead
opinion first. Well, thank you. And I thought about this, and it's such a weird thought to have had, but I watched a video on Twitter that has nothing to do with Fargo. This isn't research, but it ended up kind of sparking it. I watched a video of a hen, a chicken, defending a bunch of eggs from a snake. Like literally, puffing its feathers and kicking this snake that's slithering in to try and eat her eggs. And I thought, that's such a good... Wow, that could be Molly. I could see that. And especially look at that video and them saying, yeah, with the ducks and pheasants, okay, there's some bird connection here going on. More surface level, I thought perhaps owl. They represent knowledge and truth.
Mm-hmm. The owls are not what they seem, Jack.
They're not what they. The owls are not what they seem. And being these kind of images of wise and research and academics. And of course can spin their heads the whole 360. They can see the full picture, quite literally. But I think hen is kind of what I was drawn to. And I think people listening to this may be going, yeah, okay, I could see that. You discussed a lot about gender politics, and I've kind of gone with quite a feminine kind of animal or spirit animal there, and that wasn't by choice. Of course, this is a humble opinion, and I'm sure you're going to have a much better interpretation. People out there are going to draw their own conclusions, which are way more in depth.
See, I actually loved that image that you conjured there.
Thank you.
I think it's beautiful, actually.
Yeah, just that video. I was like, yeah, because at the end she does form her own nest. Her own family.
Yeah, exactly.
And of course, the egg image of, she literally becomes pregnant at the end.
Exactly, yeah.
And she takes a rooster in the hen house with her, and a not so newborn chicken with her to create their own little happy family nest.
That's so cool.
And of course, Malvo representing the snake,
yeah,
or perhaps perhaps being like the fox who's trying to get into the hen house.
hen house.
She's kind of the chief chicken in charge, kind of keeping all the other flapping birds.
Chicken, yes.
Chief chicken in charge, keeping all the flapping birds calm and keeping a level
Chief
head.
chicken in charge, now on NBC.
Out this summer, chief chicken in charge.
Oh my goodness, I want to see a poultry-led police procedural drama now.
Get ready for some Kentucky Fried Justice. And
Tell Colonel Sanders I said hi.
Oh, I love it.
Jack, we need to write this, man.
We do need to write this weird fan fiction or weird chicken procedural. And we're both Chicken Run fans.
Exactly.
We love Chicken Run, and she's definitely Ginger, isn't it?
Ginger, yeah.
She's definitely the Ginger kind of. She's seen the whole picture, and everyone around her is telling you, no, stay in your place, stay in your position. Everything you think is just the way it is, but the world is different, and she can change it. And of course, like that video, literally fighting. She has a gun battle in a blizzard. Like, how badass is that? Yeah, so a hen is kind of where I drawn upon. I didn't want it to seem as a kind of a boring answer. Kind of, a hen, because she's a woman and she has a family and quite maternal figure in a lot of ways. But after watching that video, I'm like, oh yeah, there's a lot of sides to a hen. There's a lot of things that could be interpreted.
Mate, you've created an entire spin-off TV show off that. Is not boring, man. That was
created
great.
An entire lore and world of this weird inner city Kentucky police drama. Yeah.
Oh man, I can't. How do I follow that?
By creating your own police drama.
Darn it, I can't do that. But I can continue my Tom and Jerry metaphor, I'm happy to say.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, that is a surprise. Hey.
I was so happy about this. I think you can almost kind of deduce what I'm going to say now, can't you?
Perhaps, but I want I want you to say it before I say it, because I may be wrong.
I was going to say that Molly is very much a police dog.
Yes.
Yeah, she is the one who, is trying to keep the cats in check. Also, there's something about the kind of loyalty that she had with Vern that kind of, at the beginning of her journey, kind of reminded me of sort of like a little puppy dog. But then you see her like grow and become more confident and become more of the hunter, and she's able to kind of, again, she smells something on Lester, and that's what means that she, pardon the pun, dogs him constantly, even showing up at the pharmacy while he's getting the unguent. Like, she has bitten onto the bone that is the truth, and she will not let that bone go for anything.
If she was in Zootopia, she would be a police dog that literally sniffs crime.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, I did have this same thought, of perhaps the police, the K9, the police dog. And Gus also perhaps being a dog, but kind of the more puppy angle.
Yes.
The kind of forlorn, little more cowardly, while Molly's certainly more the kind of rigid, can sniff the truth. And like we discussed with the Malvo episode, dogs can smell danger. They bark at the sight of Terminators. And Molly definitely does that with this Terminator.
Very much so. Again, she's the one who's barking, saying, no, this is the bad guy, and everyone around is like, calm down.
Absolutely, yeah. Police dog, that's... I'm just getting images of this weird Zootopia cop drama in my mind.
It's gonna happen, man.
And I suppose there's another parallel of her being a police dog if Malvo's the wolf, isn't there? Very
much so, yeah. You've got to bring in another cartoon. You've got Ralph the Wolf and Sheepdog Sam.
Absolutely, yes, yeah. If Malvo's certainly the more feral, wilderness, eats to survive and very bleak and logical kind of base worldview. Her is a kind of more, I don't want to say domesticated dog, but certainly a dog that, you know, has a job like many dogs do, has a wide range of emotions like dogs do. You know, they'll bark at the sense of danger, but they'll also, you know, can portray happiness. They can have empathy with people. They can connect with other dogs, but aren't afraid to bite and bark and shout and chase when danger's there.
Awesome. Yeah. Cool.
Wonderful. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Any other animals that you think Molly could be embodying?
I didn't have much basis for this one, but it took me ages to think of this one. I was really struggling with Molly, thinking, what on earth kind of animal is she? The first animal that came to mind was actually a bear. And I'm not sure why. I guess, like, you know, there's this kind of... There's a fierceness about them, but also a sense of kind of patience. You know, they can move quite slowly, and absolutely. I guess also the idea of kind of a mother bear protecting her young as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And I suppose bears fit in with the whole Fargo setting anyway. You know, as a what's the word I'm looking for? I suppose an animal that can, you know, survive in the harsh environments.
Yes.
But also, you know, goes into a cave and hibernates and has little cubs.
Watches TV.
And watches TV, yes.
Watches Yogi Bear.
Hey, boo-boo, we've committed a grave crime.
Well, she is smarter than the average bear.
Oh, you're a quick one. You are a quick one, Thomas Potts.
I try.
And patience, I think, there is a word you've just picked up on. For some reason, I thought elephant as well.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
But
she never forgets.
Exactly. That's kind of the only thing I've got for it, really. But and all these animals, you know, the bear, the dog, the hen, the elephant, there is a patience to them. Like you said, with bears, they can be patient and wait out when hunting, but also hibernate for a long time. With the chicken, the hen, their patience of protecting their eggs and building their nests. Their dogs have patience again with hunting, but also can, you know, like a good police dog can sit and wait and prepare, and also, you know, sense danger and bide their time in case an intruder comes through the door. And an elephant being quite a slow-moving animal, I suppose, and living a long time, there's an element of patience with that animal as well.
Well, we'll leave it up to you, dear listener, as to which animal you think suits Molly Solverson best. And let us know on our Facebook group or Twitter what animals you think might suit these characters best.
Yes, please, give us validation over our choices that we've made with this show.
Yes.
Please, there has to be someone else out there, someone that that agrees with us or thinks the same way in terms of this animal approach.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, thank you for everyone that's listened so far.
Thank you so much.
The response has been amazing. I thought maybe we'd get, you know, 1 or 2 listens per episode. But we've been getting a wide range of people engaging with it, which is so lovely to see.
It is.
We got someone on our Facebook page from Minnesota. Did you see that? I think you responded to them, didn't you?
I did, yes. That is so cool, considering that we, you know, I've never been to America. I know you've been to America, Jack. Have you ever been to the Midwest before?
No, I've only been to LA, Vegas, and Yosemite. So never Minnesota, never Fargo, never, you know, the proper North or the East or the Midwest or anything.
So the fact that this has been able to reach that far is literally beyond my wildest dreams. So thank you so much.
You know, within the realms of Fargo, essentially, within that area as well. I was surprised. So cool. I was like, oh, is this someone I know? Like, oh, I don't recognise the name. So I did a little snooping, and I was like, oh, not a friend of Thomas's either. Oh my god, this is a stranger! Holy
Man.
shit! and I've done some little analytics online on our because we're on Apple Podcasts now. That was all fiasco
we
when
are.
we're starting this podcast, but we're there now, and we've had a listener in India, in China, in South America,
My goodness.
in Europe, and all over America and America and England. So thank you, genuinely, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you
And
so
mine.
much.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, Thomas is here as well, I guess.
Yeah.
He's not as appreciative as
do
I
what you
am.
want, I don't care. No, honestly. I mean, especially considering, we did this literally as a way to just sort of talk about a show that we love, and the fact that you guys are taking the time out to listen to it, and it's honestly, words fail. Thank you so much.
And you know what? Thank you, Thomas. You're a good soul, and this was
Well,
such a
thank you,
good
Jack.
idea for starting this podcast and inviting me along to be your co-host.
I wouldn't have it any other way, mate.
Bless you, bless you.
Okay, so I think that's going to do us for this episode of Very Friendly People. Thank you so much for listening. As always, thank you so much to George Matthew for the incredible theme tune that he's done for us.
Yes, and thank you thank you to Dan Rhys for our wonderful artwork once again. Their links will be all over Facebook. You can find them on Instagram. They do loads of wonderful artworks I have dotted around my own place here. So give those to all the success that they deserve.
I think the next episode we should do Gus. I don't know what you think, Jack?
I think, yes. I think with our first two, we did Lester and Lorne as the iconic duo. And I think we have to do another iconic duo. We have to do Molly and Gus. So I think Gus Grimley shall be up next.
Absolutely. Again, thank you so much for listening. And as always, wrap up warm. It's cold out there.
Oh, yeah. You betcha.